What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in tonight to Eastern Current. This is episode what? What is it? 14. Episode 14. We are stoked to be here tonight with y'all and talk a little bit about albacore fishing, some near-shore albacore fishing. It's that time of year again, the early season albacore here, and me and Billy got the opportunity to get out there and fish for them last week. We're going to talk to you about that a little bit. We're going to dive into how to catch them and everything. But yeah, we're just stoked to be here, and we're enjoing our
smoothies from Smoothie King.
Yeah, baby. I got a serious brain freeze right now.
What do you got over there? The banana boat?
The banana boat.
That's illegal to have a banana on a boat. What are you thinking?
It is.
And then
I don't know why I get it. It's just delicious.
I have a peanut powered plus. So I don't know what that is. It's got peanut butter and chocolate in it.
Triple P.
So this is the chocolate one. I think they have a strawberry one as well. Super delicious smoothie. I think, not that if you looked at my physique, you could tell, but they actually don't sweeten this with sugar anymore. I think it's sweetened with dates. So, for all you health nerds out there, if there's any listening or watching, dates it is. Dates
you know what else is sweetened by dates? A relationship.
A kiss. That's what's sweetened by dates. All right.
That was a terrible joke.
None of the bad jokes. Let's see who's jumping on here tonight. We got Roger Jones. What's up? We got Cameron. Griffin. I like Griffin, man. He is a fishy dude, always fishing, always on the water. Fishes from, I think he does some offshore fishing, he was telling me, with his dad. And then also does a lot of fishing off of paddleboard, which that would be a fun episode to do.
Like, yeah, paddleboard episode. That'd be super fun.
Yeah, live from a paddleboard.
I bumped into him out in the ocean albacore fishing this past week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was out there fishing.
So he's out. Who out? Did he outfish you?
Probably so.
Let's see who else. Yeah, if you guys are on the chat, let us know where you're watching from. So we got Griffin, Forrest Gray. Forrest Gray's always on here. What's up, man?
What's up, Forrest? Me and Forrest albacore fish this week.
Yeah, dude, I saw the pictures. Him and his son, right? Is that right?
Yep.
All right, we got Audrey, Sandy, Riley, Perry, and Forrest again. Said Judd had to restock his tackle. I guess they broke you off a few times over there.
I don't even remember. Maybe I guess we did. I think we lost. No, we lost very little. We lost very little tackle.
Well, at least he didn't lose an eye like he did with me fishing last week. That's a glass eye in his head right there. So if you're tuning in, if you're watching live, thank you for joining us. Let us know where you're watching from. And just a quick reminder and a lot of people don't know this, Judd, but our show, all these sponsors you see, we're co-promoting with these guys. So, a lot of people I've heard a lot of people say, oh my God, I can't believe you guys are sponsored by such and such and such and such. And we have a great working relationship with all these companies, and we love them, and we support them, and that's why they're on the show. But this is totally something we do for fun. It's totally our side project, if you will, that we enjoy doing. So the way you can support us and help support us is go to our online store, buy a hat, buy a t-shirt, sweatshirt, or whatever, and we're going to trying to stay on top of that stuff as much as possible. Once again, this is kind of our little side deal that we're doing. So we'll try to get that, but we print and ship all those on demand. So anyway, talking about sponsors, let's go ahead and just name a few of them off here. We got iStrike Fishing, which you can save up to 40% on their website. You just go on there, and they got certain drop-down tiers and deals. I just hear that straw whistling into the mic. Cito. Go to Cito here in Wrightsville Beach. Mention that you saw Cito ad or you heard about them from Eastern Current. I think they're going to hook you up with $25 off your membership, either current or renewal. We got AFCO and Marshwear, man, just great products. I know you sport their stuff all the time, Judson. So does a really good job. Keeps his sun off.
Still wearing those same Marshwear shorts from last week. Haven't washed them. Haven't taken them off once.
Hey, when you're catching them, you just can't take off the lucky shorts.
I have.
We got Eastern Angling, Judd Brock Fishing over there. Check him out on YouTube. Go follow his YouTube channel, Judd Brock Fishing. Also follow him on Instagram. And then, more importantly, go book a trip with him. We're talking about some albacore. I took a trip with him last week. Super fun. We're going to be talking about that a little bit.
You still owe me for that trip, too, Billy. You haven't paid me.
I know, man. I haven't paid you. That's what I do. I just stiff kidding. People. Like, hey, you care to take me fishing? And then they don't tell me the price, and then I never pay. Then we got Smoothie King. We already shared those smoothies. Great smoothies. There's one on 17th Street. I think there's one. I know there's one on College Road, and there's one right up the road from your house here. I won't tell people where we're at, but it's right off of Market Street. So go check that out. And then my company, Thorpe Creative, we make hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, all the stuff you can put a logo on, just not fishing lures. Actually, I probably could order some from China for you. So just give me a call. That's about it. That's it for our sponsors. And then, Judd, as far as our catch of the week, we're not going to do catch of the week, but we are going to give away this AFCO shirt right here.
Yes, we are.
Let me bring this thing up. So this is going to be a participation giveaway. Not a participation trophy. Not everyone gets one. But you have a chance to win if you like, comment, share. Actually, just comment, because that's what I'm going to randomly choose from at the end of the show. Pretty sick shirt, man. Look at that thing.
That is a cool shirt.
Pretty cool short
sleeve.
It is a large
sun
shirt. It's a
so
large.
If you are fat, then just don't comment. I'm just kidding. That was uncalled for. I'm sorry,
I guess I'm
guys.
not commenting because large is not the size for
I know.
me.
I wear an extra large as well. So
yeah, I wear an extra large as well. So anyway, we're going to be giving that away at the end of the show. So stick around for that. I think I got through all of our sponsors. So shout out to those guys. Thank you. Support those businesses. So Judd, what's the fishing out like out there, man? What's happening?
It's been really windy the past couple of days. Fall fishing's definitely here. We've got a big redfish showing up. The albacore here. The nearshore fishing's great with the mullet run going on. The inshore fishing's been real good too, but we're still dealing with a little bit of dirty water in the Cape Fear River from all the rain we've had from the hurricane and a little bit of rain we've had since then. And then we've also got a little bit of dirty water up here up north, around Wrightsville Beach, Wilmington. But it's been good. We just need this wind to lay out. I think this north wind and east wind we've had lately is definitely going to help out once it's passed. Kind of kicking the fall patterns off, but it's been pretty annoying with 25-mile-an-hour winds for about 3 days straight now. So
is that pushing up here from that hurricane that's offshore?
No, I think it's another system that's pushing against the hurricane. I think it might actually be what's helping keep that hurricane
away from us.
Away from us, yeah.
Oh, that's good, man. It seems like we have a hurricane like every 45 minutes or so. Just one pop up there in the tropics.
Yeah.
So, but if you want to check out a cool person on, speaking of Facebook Live and doing Facebook Lives, that guy Mike over at SpaghettiModels.com. Not that he needs anyone else. He has like 60,000 people tuning in live to his thing, but really cool. He shows like all the models. He's not like a official meteorologist or whatever, but that's what my wife and I watch. That's what we keep up with. Less drama than the Weather Channel, so we like that.
That's cool. I didn't even know about him. I'll have to check him
out.
Yeah, man,
it's cool. He's entertaining. He just drinks beer.
When you said spaghetti models, I was like, "What are you talking about?" For a second.
I guess it's just all those little spaghetti models that
I thought you were talking about people who model spaghetti. That's
right.
truly what I thought at first. Then I forgot that's what the hurricane models were called.
I'm going to let you continue to self-deprivate over the spaghetti models. Oh, man. Hey, we got my buddy Eliu from Belize watching. If you haven't fished in Belize, which I haven't.
You're blowing it.
But, man, have you been? Have you fished down there?
No.
Oh, dude. I see people all the time
I want
on
to.
YouTube.
Peacock bass.
Are
there Arapaima in Belize?
I have no idea.
Arapaima? I think there
Every time I go there, I've been there a few times.
You've been to Belize?
Yeah, I've been to
you
Belize.
Haven't fished?
I haven't fished there, believe it or not. We went on a mission trip several times down there.
Sweet.
And so it was awesome. Didn't get to spend some time on one of the islands. Beautiful water, man. You can just see right down to the bottom. It's one of the most beautiful places on the planet. But in saying all that, like right when you get out of the plane into Belize, there's like 20 people holding fly rods in their hands.
That's awesome.
I'm always like hitting those guys up like, hey, what are you
You're saying
for?
Belize. For some reason in my head, I was thinking you were saying Brazil. I'm behind tonight.
Hey, Brazil, Belize
is
spaghetti, whatever you want to call it.
Belize, that makes sense for sure.
So,
I don't know why I was thinking Brazil.
So beautiful place down there. And I don't know if my friend Eliu is still doing this or not, but the last time I was there, he was actually putting together like vacation trips for people that were coming, from different countries or from the United States or whoever wanted to go on vacation there. So he's on the chat. So if you are looking to do a trip down there, if he's not still doing that, he may, be able to put you in the right connection with somebody. So there's your connection to Belize if you want to put that trip together.
Belize us. You can do it.
Belize me. It's super fun to go down there and hang out. So, okay, let's see who else is on here. We got Kevin Colley. We saw Kevin on the water the other day. That was pretty fun. You remember that, Judd?
Yeah. That was awesome.
I'm going to get you up to speed here.
I didn't realize I was so out of it tonight until we went live. That's Southern Blend Fishing, right?
Yeah, Southern Blend. He was out there throwing a fly rod, trying to
super nice guy.
Fly rod. Oh yeah, super great guy. We've chatted a few times there as well on Instagram. By the way, if you haven't followed us on Instagram, go over there and follow us. We'll chat with you on there.
And like we said last time too, what really helps us on our podcast is if y'all head over to iTunes and give us hopefully a 5-star rating and leave a comment there. That's just that. Nothing is helping us more in the podcast world than those ratings.
That's it. Unless you get $1 million check.
Yep, $1 million check.
That'll help the podcast. So $1 million or a review, you make your decision.
You make a decision.
So Judd, let's get into talking about chasing albacore, man. We went on a trip last week.
We did.
Appreciate it. Thank you for taking me out
Thank you
there.
for coming.
Yeah, man, it was awesome. And so I guess if I had to to sum up what an albacore trip is to me, it is literally like sitting on a horse, I guess on the front of a horse at this point, and like running and gunning after some wild bulls or like wild. What are those in the rodeo? I watched a rodeo this past weekend. What is that called when they lasso like little
calves?
Yeah, calves or pigs or something like that. Man, it's like that's kind of the feeling because for me, I was on the bow of the boat and you're chasing them down, and so we had a super fun trip. We did a little fly fishing in the beginning I had no luck anyway. You did pretty good though.
It was that was a crazy trip. So I had an afternoon trip. I had the morning open, and me and Billy really wanted to go fish together, and so we hopped on the boat. What time did we get started? I think around 9 o'clock, probably.
Yeah, like 9:30 or 10.
9:30 or 10, and we headed out. We head out. We went out Wrightsville Beach, Mason Bro Inlet.
Yeah, he was just waking into the no wake zone there.
Yeah, I went flying through the no wake zone. But yeah, we ran out Mason Bro and slid out there, and it was super calm. And so it was a little tough at first. Those albacore are tough when it's calm, but we were running around and ended up having a really great day. I want to hear Billy's perspective of the day, though. Because I do a lot of albacore fishing, and Billy's done it quite a good bit before, too. But Billy was wanting to get one on the fly rod. We focused on that for a while. And you take it away, Billy.
Yeah,
how was the day for you?
I'll say a good bit as in... I'll say good bit as in I went 3 times before I went with you. So I went a couple times with a friend, went on a guided trip once. And man, it was cool. So the interesting part is, I was used to the whole run and gun, like, find the blow up, and we'll talk about all those details of how to do that and what to look for and where to find these fish. Cause you're out in the middle of the ocean. So it seems like how in the world can you ever find a school of fish? But anyway, so run and gun and cast to them. And then, reel in pretty quickly and hook up. So I was used to that part, but the fly fishing aspect of it was a whole different challenge. And I'll tell anybody that's watching or listening, if you're from the mountains, and I don't care, I've fly fished in the mountains several times, hundreds of times by now. And I'm a pretty decent casting. I can cast pretty good, but dude, it was like nothing I've ever been a part of before, because not only are the wind is blowing, you kind of got some line left out of your rod. So you got line left out of the tip of your rod. You got line left on the boat. You're gassing it. I don't know how fast you're going, but you're cruising. So all this wind is creating all these like knots and everything else. And I was terrible at line management. And then you get up there and you're so nervous because, I don't know, how long do we have, Judson? Like, it felt like
we had like 6 hours of fishing. Yeah, so four to 6 hours, somewhere in there.
But when you pull up on those fish, it feels like you have like 30 seconds to like present.
Yeah, it can be pretty quick. I mean, sometimes they'll stay up for a while, but that trip in particular, I'd say 30 seconds was probably our best.
So, dude, I was wrapped up in it. I caught everything. I caught the trolling motor. I caught my own butt of my flat rod.
Caught his own butt of his butt.
I probably caught my own butt a couple times. Man, I was just like all over the place. I was nervous, and then so finally I got used to the fast run and gun, stop, do a few false casts, and then launch it into the middle of into this blow up.
Yeah.
But then the retrieve is what got me for the day, man. It was just I was trying to tuck my rod in and do the double quick retrieve as fast as possible, and it really just did not, for me, pan out too well. And I think I got a couple bites, but it was like I got to practice, man. So if anybody has like an Olympic-sized swimming pool and you want to invite me over to practice in your swimming pool, that'd be perfect. I'll come make that happen.
It's tough, man. That the two-hand strip, I think, is important just because it helps you get that fly moving quickly. And when you're running up to these fish, the bait, the fly, the bait, the lure, whatever, moving quickly is important, but I think it's just more important that it gets moving quickly, which means once you get it in there, it needs to be moving. And so with a fly rod, you throw it in there, that boat's coming, slowing down as you're approaching the school of fish. And so it's hard to get that fly stripping because you're moving towards the fly and you're trying to, get up that slack as well as get that fly moving. So a lot of times you're stripping just enough to keep the slack out of the line, but the fly just sits in the same spot the whole time and the fish won't eat it. Sometimes they will if it's like complete massacre, schools of fish blowing up like crazy, but a lot of times it's crazy. I mean, it looks like they never know what was going on in there. There's so much white water. But those fish really still can see so well and see those baits so well. So
yeah, man.
I think that was the struggle for both of us that day with the fly, was getting it moving quickly because we had to run up to them so quick. They were staying up such a short amount of time.
Yeah, and like getting it in there, and then like you're saying, stripping it and getting it stripped in quick. Which I've never done that. Like I was telling you, like in those mountain streams, I mean, you're on vacation. You're like, oh, I'm just gonna throw it out here and let it float and strip it a few times. And this, you're like, oh, wait a second.
It's like death metal fly fishing.
I gotta shoot this thing right into the pack here, and then I'm gonna try to outrun. You know, these fish, man, these things take off. I was doing a little research just because I was curious, like how fast do these things move. And their initial runs can be 40 miles an hour. That's insane.
Yeah, if you've got that textured fly line, it'll burn your fingers up.
Yeah. So anyway, I did not hook up to one on the fly. However, Judson did. I won't tell you how his first one got hooked up.
That was actually pretty awesome. You should share that.
Yeah.
That was good.
What were you doing? So I guess when we're on the run, you're just kind of letting the line lay out behind you.
Well, I think I wasn't casting on a school. We ran up. You casted. And I just had a fly dangling behind the boat. You know, we're drifting, and then my rod about to get. I had my line clamped pretty hard, and sometimes when I'm just dragging it, I'll wrap the line around the reel once, like around the base of the reel once.
Oh yeah,
so that it doesn't get pulled out if I'm not paying attention. And it was like that, and a fish ate it while we were idling, and about pulled my rod into the water.
And burn up your hand pretty good.
Yeah, I still have a little. I mean, it cut in pretty good. I was a little bit of blood, but yeah, I'm not ashamed. I called it albacore trolling a fly. So
which I watched some guys on YouTube from up north, and that's like a thing. That's a thing. Which, you know what? I guess if it wasn't going to be my first one, which we talked about this on the boat, you're like, I'm not going to let your first albacore on a fly be from trolling. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to make you work for it. So I'm going to practice and get that double retrieve down.
We're going to get back out there.
Or figure it out, or put some kind of electric motor on my line and let it retrieve fast enough. I don't know what's going to happen, but... so anyway, yeah, that was pretty fun. And then we broke out the spin reels and kind of went back and forth between the two and hooked up on some. So
yeah, we caught a bunch on the spinning rod.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Forrest says, yeah, Judd can run a boat. He can hammer down while holding the rod and get you right in them. I agree, Forrest. That's a good way to put it. Just running gun and gas and fish and everything all at the same time. It's pretty good.
Well, let's tell the last little funny part of this story, and then we'll jump into the meat of this and start talking about the breakdown of everything and how to approach these fish. But I'll let Billy take this away as well.
Okay, so we're both on. I think we're both spin fishing, right? Am I right? So
yes.
We got them hooked up on.
Yep.
And what jigs were we using?
So we're using Hoagie's got what's called an epoxy jig.
I wish we had one here.
I know. I meant to go grab some out of my boat, but I left all my tackle in my big boat, which is not at the house, and so.
Oh, gotcha. No big deal.
It's not a big boat. It's just my larger boat.
So our whole goal, I mean, not our whole goal of the trip, but one of our big goals of the trip was to get doubles, but so we could take a picture for this episode. So I mean, that was like one of our objectives. Like, hey, we need to catch a double so we can both hold the fish, take a picture, because we knew we were going to be doing this episode.
Right.
And so we got the doubles. We were both in. I got my fish to the boat already, and I'm a little girl, so I'm waiting for Judson to pop it off there, and then I was holding my fish up, like getting it. I think I actually had it on the boat, and then I look over and Judson's got his phone, which my phone's a part of the shoot right now, so I can't show you. But he's got his phone and he's recording, just capturing some video, and then all of a sudden it's like slow motion. I just see this phone just like toggle out of his hand into the water. So, dude, I'm holding my this fish, and I'm looking down in the water. And how deep were we out there? I mean, we were
in like 40 feet of water.
Yeah, so we're 40 feet. I'm like, dude, I don't even go past like knee deep when I'm at the beach. So I like literally say out of my mouth, like, I don't know, man. I'm not going after it. And before I can even finish the statement, Judd ditched his hat, ditched his hat, his glasses, his flip-flops. And I'm telling you, here's a good...
I think I just dove out of my flip-flops.
Dude, yeah, you probably dove out. But here's the thing. He didn't dive head first. So if I was going after this, I would have been like, oh, I'm going to go head first so my hands will be there.
I didn't dive head first.
Well, you did the Navy SEAL dive where you cross your legs, you jump in like straight down like torpedo, and then came up underneath his phone, which I thought was a pretty genius idea. And you could tell, I mean, I don't want to call you out too hard, but you can tell that had been practiced a few times.
It's not the first time that I've dropped my phone off and had to dive in and retrieve it. And it's always been while fishing.
Oh, man. Yeah. So,
but anyway. I got it back. I got the phone back. It worked for about 2 hours. I was like, no way, this thing, it's going to keep working. And then it started to mess up, and it's been messed up. I got an insurance phone, and the insurance phone, unfortunately, was messed up. The speaker's not working on it, so I haven't been able to talk on my phone for about 4 or 5 days now.
Yeah, 4 or 5 days.
And so I apologize if I haven't been able to, if you tried to call and it hasn't worked, but
I didn't even know we were still doing the show. I just showed up with a smoothie. I'm like, are we still doing
I was like,
this or
yeah, I
what?
guess we can do it.
All right, here we go. We're going to talk about it. So anyway, guys, that was our trip, kind of summed up. And to get into talking about how do you even have such an epic trip as we did. And I caught a bird at the end of the trip.
You did catch a bird.
That was one of my, I didn't know that was like kind of a normal thing to happen. I mean, maybe not normal, but it happens.
Birds get caught a lot, but to eat those epoxy jigs that are a little bit under the surface, it's kind of rare. It's rare. I was proud of you.
I told my wife that story. She's like, what happened to the bird? She was like so concerned. I'm like, well, we drug it in and cut its head off and ate it. No, I didn't tell her that. I just told her
They're delicious.
What we did. We just unhooked its wing and let it fly.
It was good.
I actually caught a bird. That was pretty epic. Never done that before. So dude, let's get into talking about first of all, so you're going out the inlet, and I kind of know some of this because I ask you a lot of questions on the way out, but I'm going to guess it matters. You turn left or right. It doesn't matter. What are you looking for?
Going out the inlet, it doesn't, like you're saying, it doesn't really matter. I mean, day to day it matters, but I couldn't say, you need to go. I'm just basing it off of the last time I was out there, where did I find fish? And I head there first and I work from there. So one of the big mistakes people make, and I used to as well, is thinking, albacore, they're like Spanish. We need to get out there early in the morning and look for them busting on the surface. If we want to find a busting on the surface, it's going to be early in the morning, which they'll bust on the surface early in the morning, but they are so hard to catch. When that light's low, because what happens is when that sun gets up, the small bait fish that they eat gets silhouetted by the sun. It's much easier for them to find it. So when I've got an albacore trip, if I've got one trip a day, I'm not starting until probably 9 o'clock, maybe 9:30. I'd say even on a perfect day, weather-wise, of albacore fishing is like 8 to 12 knot winds, maybe 8 to 10 knot winds and bright sun, and I'm starting at 9:30. I'm picking up at 9:30 or I'm leaving my dock at 9:30 because that sun gets up, and that's when it really gets going good, is 9:45, 10 o'clock. And not to say you can't catch them and you can't catch them good in the morning, but for me, it always seems to get better when that sun's up.
And is that because they can see? You think it's because the fish can see a little better?
Yeah. So the bait they're eating's up on the surface.
Oh, gotcha.
And when the sun's up high, it's more silhouetted, so they can just see that bait much better and key in on it. Yeah, and they'll stay up longer because they once they start slashing through it in the morning, the light's low and it spreads out a little bit, then they can't find it. But when the sun's high, they can see every single little bait as it's spreading out, and they'll keep eating. So
gotcha. And I guess and one thing that you were telling me when we were going out there, you're like, hey, keep your head on a swivel and start looking for birds.
Yeah.
So I guess birds are
key for sure, and they won't always be on albacore. Or there might be albacore busting that don't have birds on it. That happens a lot. But typically, if fish are staying up well, if they're up on the surface well, the birds are going to find them pretty quickly and key on it as well. So
those birds following the albacore, they follow the bait? Who knows?
If they can see the bait themselves and it's up on the surface, they'll just eat the bait. But they're usually following the albacore because the albacore will slash through that bait and there'll be little scraps and whatnot.
And they kind of push, I guess they push that bait
up to the surface. Right? And I think a lot of it too is the scraps, the little sliced up pieces of bait that the albacore leave behind. Gotcha. The birds are scooping that up.
So if you want to catch a bird, just do slices. Don't do
the whole thing. Let line a little slice. If you throw the whole thing, they're going to leave it for the albacore.
Somebody asked me if that was a citation seagull. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, 16-pound turn.
16-pound seagull. Here we go. So that's how you look for them. So you're going after them that way.
The other important part about looking for them, though, too, is the depth and water temperature as well. So we get these slightly cooler water temperatures in the fall, and key in on, if you go out on a Monday and you find them in 50 feet of water, remember that. Kind of run to 50 feet of water and zigzag around and see where they are, because a lot of times they're going to stay in those same depths. From here on out, they should be closer to the beach for the most part. I think I only had 5 trips so far this year that we've actually albacore fished, and started out finding them at like 8 miles. And then each day they were gradually closer into the beach. So
is that a year-round fishery here in North Carolina?
Could catch albacore out of North Carolina all year, but maybe not schooled up and busting. But people catch them trolling all summer further out in the ocean and Gulf Stream and stuff like that. But as far as schools up and busting on the surface, near shore fishing, it's a fall thing.
Of course, I guess if I'm going out to the Gulf Stream, I'm not catching false albacore.
Right. At false albacore, you hook one in the Gulf Stream, you're pissed.
I hook one, I chop it up, I put it back out there, and try to get something else with it. So, Cool, man. Yeah, so that's good. So just in case anybody's joining us, don't know what we're talking about false albacore fishing. So false albacore, what else people call them? Falsies, albies, little tunies.
Little tuna, yeah, little
or
tunies.
little toonie. Fat Albert. I saw that one as I was doing a little research.
Yeah.
Little Fat Albert.
Yeah.
I wish you would have called me and said, hey, you want to go catch Fat Albert? I'd be like, sure. This little cartoon. And then Spotted Bonita. I want to show the difference because this is a conversation that gets brought up a lot.
Yeah.
People go, can you eat these? Can you eat false albacore? You can eat anything. You can eat anything, right? So, but I just wanted to bring up the difference, and I might get in trouble for this if this is copywritten image. But anyway, so here's the difference. A little bit of difference as far as the look. Is the false albacore has a little squiggly lines.
Yeah,
really,
it looks like what a piece of wood looks like. I think when the worm gets into the wood is what a false albacore looks like.
Oh, that's a good.
And the bonita have the vertical lines. That's the big giveaway. But the other main giveaway is teeth.
Oh,
the bonita have teeth.
I don't know if you guys can see that on that image, but there's definitely some teeth in this illustration.
Or bony toe, whatever you want to call them.
But bony toe. That's really a term.
No, but that's just how. If I just saw that word, I think that's how I'd read it. Bonito.
Bony. Oh, I see. I got you. I see what you're saying. So yeah, there's a difference, and you can actually catch these in the same schools. I mean, they'll run together sometimes.
Yeah, you can catch them in the same school. It doesn't happen much here in the fall.
Okay, gotcha.
But in the spring, with when the bonita are here in the spring, I see that happen a little bit more. But yeah, the bonita too. They're a little more mackerel shaped. They're a little bit thinner or a little bit narrower, not as tall in the body, and but the teeth is the main giveaway. Just look for if they've got decent teeth, they're bonito.
And I guess those bonito or bonita or however people pronounce
Bonitata.
Bonitata. I guess those are pretty good eating, from what I understand.
Yeah, they're really good.
I've never had. I don't. Well, actually,
you talk to someone that has the privilege of eating like yellowfin and blackfin a lot. They're like, "Oh, dude, I never eat a bonita," but they're really good fish.
What, somebody with a John boat that lives at the beach?
Gonna eat the mess out of them. Exactly.
Oh man, so
I love them. I think they're great, and I like them just barely seared with the center still raw.
And these guys, man, you can catch them anywhere. I was doing a little research about the fish just because I was super interested how they fleed me so effortlessly on the fly rod that I'm now going to be challenged to bring one in. But they're pretty common all the way from Brazil, which you mentioned earlier, to even up to Maine and New England.
You mean Belize?
States. Yeah, you mean Belize. So pretty much you can catch them anywhere. Someone said, hold on, let's see here. Someone just asked something. Why are they so close to the beach in Florida all year long? Probably the same reason everything's close to the beach in Florida.
Bait's there. There's bait.
Florida's out in the Gulf Stream. I guess the Gulf Stream moves, but it's like I feel like everybody in Florida just goes out in their front yard and look here, Kalamahi.
Exactly. That deep water break is much closer to the actual coast there. So they're a lot closer. And here as well, I talk to guys that spend a lot more time in the ocean than I do. You've got a chance of running into albacore all summer. I mean, you could definitely bump into a school right off the beach all summer. We also get little bullet mackerel, little skipjacks, which look like a bonita, but they're tiny. They're like 5 or 6, not 5 or 6. They're probably like 12 to 13 inches long.
Oh, gotcha.
And they're pretty similar, but yeah, I mean, you could catch one a mile off the beach all summer, but there's just really not many around.
So man, how we did it, and when we were on our trip, and you were obviously driving the boat, I offered, but you wouldn't let me drive, so I don't know what's up with that. Whatever, dude.
Yeah, you did not offer, and I would have totally let you drive the boat.
From kayak to your really expensive boat, I don't know what the problem is. We'll just leave it right there.
We need to get you a motor on your kayak first, a little training, wheels.
Little training wheels on there. So, dude, we're jetting up to these things, and so tell me about the approach, because obviously I wasn't driving the boat, I was just enjoying the front seat. Tell me about what your strategy was putting me on those fish, and because we were gunning pretty quickly, and then we would kind of slow up and take shots at them that way.
For sure. So you're going to kind of learn what you need to do that day when you're out there. If the fish are staying up for a long time, you don't have to be as aggressive as far as getting over there. But me and Billy that day, we were having to blast over to the fish. If our fish were done and we saw another school pop up, we were running there about as quickly as we could. And then sometimes you can run right up on the school, pull it off, leave the motor running, and cast in there. Get 3 or 4 shots with them still up on the surface. And those are the days that you want where they're not as spooky, but they were real spooky in the morning for us. And so we were having to try to get into the zone quickly, set up with the current that was there, kill the motor, and just kind of drift into them, but all happening pretty quickly, because if we rode into casting distance real quickly, they were spooking every time. Even if we idled, if we ran, I mean, if that motor was on, they were spooking. And so just the stealthiness is important. I'm always thinking about the wind. I'm always thinking about the wake that my boat's pushing. There's different factors, just like when you're sight fishing inshore. But usually the calmer it is, the more stealthy you have to be. But if you've got some nice wind chop, and then they're eating larger baits. I'm dropping so much right now, but they're eating larger baits. But mostly the wind chop, you'll be able to get in there a little bit closer, a little quicker, and not have to worry quite as much.
Yeah, it's like the wind provides like that little bit of coverage, or that little bit of,
it breaks everything up a little bit more.
Yeah.
So
because I noticed when we were started early in the morning, or earlier in the morning, like 9:30, 10, whatever, we weren't doing as well. And then when that wind picked up, and you actually said that, you're like, man, if this wind can just pick up just a little bit, we'll start nailing them. And so, I mean, basically verbatim, that's what happened. So, man, and one thing that you coached me on is when you run up to them, you killed the motor, you kind of drifted into them, which, there's all kinds of stuff. You could probably do a whole show on, like, how to maneuver your boat and get on the left side and right side, because you had me forecast, and then you tell me backcast and all this stuff. So I was like, you can get into that if you want to, but basically the presentation that you told me was, hey, cast over this school through the middle and drag through them. And so, I mean, I guess that's pretty standard. Is that how you feel like the best way to present if I'm casting to them?
Yeah, that's definitely the best way. When I'm rolling up to them, if I've got the ability, I'm not casting like as soon as they're in reach.
Yeah.
I'm waiting. I'm looking at that school, waiting until they're in casting range, but looking for the most dense area of fish blowing up on the surface.
Yeah, that's good.
And trying to cast right to that as soon as they're blowing up. I don't want to cast to where they were just blowing up. I want to look and be getting that bait in there while they're still blowing up in an area, in the most concentrated area. And so when I say cast over them too, very important to cast over them and not just cast into the middle, because when you throw over, you've got more time of that bait being in the strike zone. The other thing too is you don't want to cast too far over them, because they do move so quickly. I'm literally trying to land it, a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet on the far side of where those fish are blowing up. I want to have it in that bite zone while they're feeding as quickly as I can.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that works. And same thing with a fly, it's all about just getting it into that area of concentrated feeding as quickly as you can.
Yeah, and I think that was one thing that, I was missing some fish, and then you're like, hey, hold on a second, like, slow down. And maybe these fish, like, when we were out there, like you said, they're a little spooky, so they're, they're not on top as much, but, take your iPhone out or take your smartphone out, set a timer for 30, 45 seconds, and that's a pretty long time. I mean, if you really think about it, to kind of wait for the water, to wait for the fish, see what they're doing. And once I started doing that, I started hooking up a lot more, because, I was at first just casting as quickly as where those, like Judson's saying, like the blow up was like pretty much over, and I was trying to cast there, and then I'd be retrieving, a semi quick retrieve, and then they blow up like right inside the boat, and I'm like, what the freak? And I'm like trying to throw my, trying to get my lure out of the water or my fly out of the water and represent on, on the other side. So I think that's really good advice, is when you're on those fish, if they're not super active, just like wait for a second. And then also, man, watch those birds, because those birds will, I mean, basically we were watching those birds the whole time, and then we watch them go to the left or to the right, and then you're like, okay, hold on, they're going to blow up again. They blow up, and then we hook into a couple of them. So
yeah,
I think patience
you could almost
huge.
Do a whole show just on like reading the birds, I feel like.
Probably so.
Because there's a lot to that. And allowing yourself to read what the birds are doing, to go ahead and be setting the boat up for where you think that next shot's going to be.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. And it seems like you're just running the gun in, high energy, whatever. And I'm pretty high energy. Well, probably not to some people, but to some people, I'm really high energy. And so, like, especially on the boat, when I was trying to present that fly, dude, I was all over the place. And then when I calmed down and really, thought about 2-3 steps of it and kind of really prepared, even when I was spin fishing, like, it was a little bit better in throwing those jigs and getting them in the right place at the right time, and then switching up your retrieve and everything. So
we just didn't have a good day. We didn't have good albacore to fly fish for that day. They were really tough albacore to catch.
We still crushed them though.
We caught a bunch of fish, but they were up and down so quick. So having that jig to where you could fire it from a much further distance was very important. But yeah, so I think the next thing to kind of talk about is, all right, we know where the fish are. You know, we're coming up to these schools. We know how to approach them now, and we've thrown the cast. What is the retrieve like, whether it's on fly, or on a jig? So what I told Billy, and this is just what I found from the years of fishing these fish, and I'm not saying it's the exact right thing. And everyone says reel as fast as you can. I'm all about speed is important. A lot of times, especially early season, these fish are eating little small baits. And so if you reel slow and they see that jig, well, they're not going to eat it because it doesn't look like what they're eating. But you're trying to get that reaction bite, that quick bite. And I like people to reel fast, but I tell people when you make that cast, keep your rod tip right on the surface of the water and reel as fast as you can without your jig skipping on the surface. And I told Billy this. I was like, they'll eat it skipping across the surface really well, but they miss it way more when it's skipping.
I was skipping so hard. It was crazy.
Yeah, it'll just skip, especially when it's choppy. It'll skip across those waves.
And you're just like, dude, you got to slow down. Yeah. And then I finally started hooking up when I like chill out. But, you know, the action, man, is so fast. Like you're jetting across through there.
Right.
The boat's sliding in your throat. And it's just like, but you just take a deep breath and chill out and you'll hook up on way more fish. And that's what we did there. So, dude, as far as retrieve, and I agree with you, like, when I slowed down, it's like a medium fast retrieve. Actually, a couple times you're like, dude, put your tip in the water. I just put the tip of your rod in the water.
Yeah.
Because I was reeling too fast, and I started hooking up on fish. So practice that retrieve, and, you know, that's what I did, is medium fast retrieve, and started hooking up way, way more. But also, in talking about that, man, like, we switched out a couple lures, and as far as size goes, and did quite a bit different on two sizes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about that quite yet.
No. Well, yeah, let's jump into the whole tackle, flies, everything.
Okay,
let's
we'll
do that as a whole segment.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the lure is so important, and the speed is important. And if you don't have the right size lure, if you're too big, fast is good because you're just getting that reaction strike as opposed to the fish. And you think that they're not really keen in on it, but especially fly fishing for them, like, there's days where you'll be throwing a Clouser minnow, which is a larger bait fish style pattern, and not getting any bites. And then I'll switch to like a little small, tiny fly, like 5 or 6 pieces of deer hair with like a little bit of an epoxy head. I mean, you can barely see it. You put it on your fingernail. It's on a tiny little hook and you can barely see it. And they'll eat the mess out of that. So they can see really well. Like, they're seeing that big epoxy jig. They're seeing that Clouser, but it's not close enough to what they're actually eating that they want to eat it. So if you're out there on a day where you're getting a lot of casts into these fish and you're not getting bites, you're definitely fishing something too large. Color never really seems to matter all that much. It's definitely size. And if you're not fly fishing, there's smaller jigs you can get. Hoagie's got these smaller jigs that I just got this year. But another trick I'll do is I'll get some little small flies, and I'll take my hook off my jig and I'll drop it a foot off the back of the jig.
Yeah, you're telling me about
that way I can retrieve something smaller through there on a spinning rod and still hook fish. Because there's definitely been days where they will not eat a jig, and you don't have somebody that can throw the fly rod, and that's kind of the saving grace there. But yeah, so it's all about, you know, we've talked about the approach, we've talked about the cast and the retrieve, and someone brought up a question on here. They said, Caleb Hofer, he said, have y'all talked about etiquette when there are multiple boats chasing the same school? So that's something we haven't worried about too much yet this year. There's not been a bunch of people out there fishing for them yet, but there's definitely this sense of etiquette. Albacore fishing, people are okay with, you know, running up on the same fish, fishing to them. But I would say rule of thumb is the first person to a school has rights on that school. So
if you're not first, you're last, Ricky Bobby.
If you're not first, you're last. So like, say Billy's in his boat, I'm in my boat, and we're fishing the same little zone. Right in the middle of the both of us, a school pops up. Billy whips his boat around, runs in there. He gets close up on them, starts casting. I think it's completely okay for me to go fish those fish as well, but I'm not going to run up quite as tight as Billy already is on that school. I'm going to kind of come in there a little bit easier, kind of drift into that zone. If I get a shot, I get a shot. But I kind of look at those as Billy's fish. He was there first. I don't want to mess up his opportunity because I want to get him. It's okay for me to go try them, but I'm going to hold back a little bit further and see if they present an opportunity instead of me forcing it on him and then putting those fish down where Billy's not going to have the opportunity to catch them. And then you also want to be really cautious because sometimes you are fishing close to other boats, you know, on the same school. And I watched it the other day. Two guys are like, "Oh, I got one!" Like one guy on one boat, one guy on the other boat, and they're pulling, and next thing you know, their jigs are bouncing up on the top of the water, and they had just hooked each other's lines, and we're pulling against each other. So just be cautious. It's fun, but it can be dangerous. People ripping around fast and whatnot, and you want to be safe. So if someone's on a school first, don't be afraid to fish the same school. Give them space, though. Give them more space than if you were the first boat running up onto them. That's kind of my answer there.
And we had that happen several times. And then I thought the cool part was too, is like when we were out there and we were fishing and those guys were kind of hitting the same schools, you know, we're kind of close enough to have some conversation and I think you were friends with one of the guys out there, so maybe that helped out as well. But it was pretty cool to be able to, you know, just take turns, and sometimes we'd run up on school and it would be, you know, a smaller blow up and just like, nah, we'll let them have it. And then we would just wait, and then next thing you know, like, you know, 20, 30 yards away from that boat, maybe that same school, I would assume it's that same school, would blow up, and we get a shot at them. And then, and we'd like kind of pick, you know,
leapfrogging
around on those schools of fish. So, man, it was pretty fun. I think there's a sense of camaraderie. But then we also had somebody that was just like, man, just blast right in the middle of us, and we're like, okay, what's going on?
And then they followed us. I'm like, all right, we're going to run them out on the beach and find our own fish. And then I turned around and the dude's following us down the beach, which is fine.
And
that's
then you
completely
saw
fine.
that like 50-pound,
oh my gosh, that triple tail was huge.
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't in my tower or anything, and I look, and there's this big triple tail. I thought it was a small loggerhead turtle floating on the surface for a second.
It was massive.
I grabbed my fly rod and like changed to a shrimp fly real quick, and by the time
I've never seen anybody change a fly that fast or climb a tower that fast.
I lost him, man. It was 100% a triple tail. Could see him clear as day. Tail was coming out of the water, just floating on his side on the surface. Biggest triple tail I've ever seen up here in North Carolina, though. Definitely.
It's definitely the biggest triple tail I've ever seen in the wild.
That was
the only triple tail I think I've actually seen is the ones that Luke Donay hauls in every year.
Oh yeah, he catches some good ones flounder fishing.
So, let's see here if we have any more questions. Boat etiquette. That was a good question. I think we've answered most of those.
Here's what rod setup is about. We'll jump into that with the tackle here at the end. The other thing that is kind of cool to look at is these fish. There's really two baits that they're eating well here and that they're here for, and that's the glassy minnows and the bay anchovies. The bay anchovies are like crack to them. They're obsessed with the bay anchovies. That's their favorite food. And you'll notice the bay anchovies because you'll see them actually in a really tight ball. They'll actually be balled up really tight, and they're look like they've got like a slight reddish tint in the water. They almost look red. And when they're on the bay anchovies, when I saw Griffin, the guy on the show the other day out in the water, it was the first time I've seen him on bay anchovies this year. It was me, him, and another boat. But you can sit there with your motor running. You could throw bricks at the schools of them busting, and they want those bay anchovies so bad. And so the bay anchovies, a lot of times will swim and hide under the boat, and they'll just be blowing them up beside the boat, trying to eat them there.
So just get out your cast net.
Well, that's when you want to fly fish for them. That's when they're staying up good. So,
dude,
cast net would be fun.
True story. I think I may have shared this with you, but I'll share it with everybody here. My father-in-law and I were on a trip down in North Myrtle Beach, I believe, and we were fishing for false albacore, and so we're running and gunning like crazy. Well, then you get these two guys, older gentlemen, look like off that movie like Grump, like I don't know, those two like old grumpy people movies. You know what I'm saying? It was like two older guys, and they like on their little boat fishing or something. There's like a movie that has this scene, and so these two guys are sitting there like just kind of soaking bait, waiting for Big Red, and then they see us like chasing these blown up fish. So this guy takes off, and there's an old man, I felt so bad, it was on the front of the boat with a cast net. I mean, it was the crazy, dude, we were all just like, there was like a little piece of me that really wanted him to like somehow get one of these into a cast net.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
It would have killed him. Like, it would have, like if you'd have got two of those in a cast net.
Yeah, dude. that would have been a little crazy.
I think, dude, I'm like, what is going on? And the captain that was, with us, or that was, he was a good guy. So he was like, don't do that. Quit doing that. And he like pulled over and like educated them on like, hey, these aren't your little bait fish that you think they are. Right. You hook into one of those, or not hook into one.
He'll tear a big hole in there to pull you off the boat. That's crazy. I've never seen that.
I would love to see somebody do that. I mean, just like safely, obviously.
For sure.
That could be
for
unqualified captain for sure.
Yeah, it could.
I wish I was recording that. That would have been
He
so
throws the
fun.
cast net on and then hops on his water skis and just takes off water skiing with his cast net with 5 albacore in it.
Dude, so crazy, man. Crazy,
For
crazy,
sure.
crazy.
For sure.
Let's,
Let's talk a little bit more. I think we've talked about the spinning rod, but we could dive into the fly rod a little bit and the strip and all that.
Yeah,
So,
dude.
what was your take on all that? This is being your first time fly fishing for albacore.
Dude, being the first time, I would definitely say practice your strip. You know, because like I was trying to double hand strip, which maybe you could single hand strip, but I couldn't do it fast enough. So like practice that before you go. Watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I did watch some YouTube videos before I went. And of course, you know, anybody that's been doing something for a long time, they make it look super, super easy. So you're like, oh, that double-handed retrieve is no problem.
Explain that double hand retrieve, exactly what it looks like for people that don't understand.
Yeah, so if I'm gonna put this big camera on here. So if I'm like fly fishing and I present the fly and I shoot the line, well then immediately I'm tucking in the rod underneath my right arm, and then I'm pulling, and I want to pull down. You know, I think a lot of people want to pull back, but when you pull back, you can't. From my research and even on the water, I tried it both different ways. When I'm pulling back, I can't get enough rip to get that line moving fast enough because my body's in the way. So it's really like a pull down method like this, which that looks like I could probably do it if I was on a boat, but I totally couldn't. So
yeah, you're just reaching up to your armpit right there where your reel is, and
let me bring you on because you got a little better action.
Yeah, so you're tucking that rod right here under your armpit, clamping it down, and then with both hands you're just stripping down to the floor right there. And you're when you cast, you're laying it out, you're keeping that line running through your finger here and clamping it. That way you've already got your first strip started. It's very hard to show without a fly rod. Long story short, you just need that fly moving quickly.
Yeah.
Because with fly line, you're coming off plane with that boat, and the boat's still going to, I don't care if you turn the key off and whatnot, the boat's still going to be moving forward. And so getting that fly moving quick, like we were talking about earlier, is important. And then the two-hand strip's the best way to do that.
Yeah, it's fun, though. I mean, it's challenging, and I think anybody that fly fishes does it partly for the art of it, to figure it out, to learn how to, you know, for us anyway, from the mountains. Now, here in the coast, you might, I don't know why you guys fly fish, but we kind of fly fish because, hey, this is like, you know, way different, way more complicated than just taking your spin rod out and fishing. For me, you know, definitely for me. So anyway, man, it was a pretty fun experience. Can't wait to go out there and do it again and actually hook up on one.
Hopefully this coming week.
Yeah, man. Hopefully so. We can get out there and bust them up. But pretty, you know, besides that, I think line management, like if there's different ways to figure out how to manage that line, which one tip that Judd gave me, which, you know, he even said like, hey, it's at your own risk, but pop your shoes off. That way you can feel that fly line under your feet, and if it's in your way, you can kind of kick it away. Because I was standing on it, it was wrapped up in my shoes, and you know, on my shoe I had one of those drawstring tabs, so it was like hooked up in there, and you know, because you're leaving all that line out in the bottom, so you can shoot it later. So when you get up there, you got about time for 2 or 3 false casts, and you want to shoot that line. But I was getting hooked up on everything, and so I think just practicing that stuff and probably just going and just doing it.
Yeah, just going and doing it. And Billy got it rough for the first time fly fishing, like I've been saying. He needs some fish that stay up a little bit better. It was so had to be so quick and perfect.
I had a couple strikes, so I was pretty happy with that. But
yeah, you did have a couple bites. You had one hooked for a second.
Oh man,
I know. We don't want to talk about it.
But who knows?
Well, the other thing I brought this up a second ago, and I forgot to jump back into it, but is the birds. So yeah, the birds tell you where the fish are, but there's almost an art to reading the birds and knowing how to set yourself up for the next shot. So you'll see the birds flying, working together in groups. And when you see them kind of spread out, you know, there's probably fish in this area pretty close to where these birds are. The longer they are away from the fish busting, the more spread out the birds will get. And the longer time has passed, the more spread out the birds will get. And as fish start busting, they'll all tighten up. If you see a bird take a really sharp turn, look at where he's heading, because they saw something from up high and they're moving back over there and I know this sounds like reading way too into birds, but it has really helped my albacore fishing and being more productive on the water. So spread out birds mean there's probably fish in that zone, maybe not right underneath that bird he's hunting. But as they group up tight, there's fish. They're looking at fish underwater. If they're not diving and they're real tight, they can actually see the albacore and they're following them and tracking them. And so what you can kind of do is their fish or the birds are really tight is look at where they're moving, and you can go ahead and kind of swing that boat around out in front of those birds and hopefully get there before the fish even start blowing up. So tight birds not diving means, like I said, birds they're following fish. And when you see the birds kind of hopping off the surface, just lifting up 2-3 feet, that's when there's fish actually busting. When if you see it, you'll see them diving sometimes. They're just picking up single baits and whatnot. But when they're hopping 5 to 6 feet off the surface and landing multiple times, that's usually when the fish are actually busting. Wouldn't you say that's kind of what we saw?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly. It's just impressive that you can just watch kind of nature do its natural thing and then read off of it. So, I mean, everyone I've ever been albacore fishing with has told me, like, hey, make sure you're watching the birds, and if we can find birds, we can find albacore. So, dude, so here's a good question from Griffin. Have you ever broken a rod fishing for them? And for somebody who's never fished for albacore, I'm going to tell you, because you might like, oh, these are like trash fish, like you don't eat them, like why the heck would you want to go waste your time? Because dude, they will bust your spine, and it is so much fun, man.
It's just
so
fun to hear your
fun.
jag scream.
Oh, dude,
any
absolutely.
fish that does that. And me and Billy, we're big fans of catch and release, right? And so, I mean, why does it really matter if you can eat them or not?
Yeah, and
for us, the sport of it.
And it's fun, man. It'll just give you tendonitis. So it's like, if you're out there, especially, if you're already out bait fishing or something, and you're just like not having a good time or whatever, like if you have the gear, just like go chase the school of these things and get hooked up on them. And man, it's so much fun. I could probably go probably twice a week because they wore me out, dude.
Yeah, it is fun. It's really fun.
It was pretty good. But anyway, tell us about a rod breaking.
Yeah, I think honestly I've broken more rods on albacore than anything else, because they make that first long run, then you get them to the boat, and when they see the boat, they'll usually take off underneath it almost every time and pull underneath the boat away from you. And so clients will get, if I'm not paying attention, clients or anyone else on the boat will get them up next to that boat. You think they're almost done. They see the boat, they spook, they go into the boat. You're not holding the rod high enough, and all of a sudden you break that on the gunnel. It's not like the fish is bending it enough to break it, but they get that leverage on the gunnel, or your rod whacks the gunnel real hard and breaks it. So fly rods too, tips of fly rods broken. Sure. And I've had sections of fly rod ripped off because the line wraps a little bit on the hook set or something like that, and then it takes off and rips the whole section of fly rod off the rod tip. I actually lost a tip section of fly rod one time doing that, because fish broke off, ripped the tip off, and then the tip sunk off into the fly line.
Oh man. And dude, there's a way. I actually looked that up before we went, because I knew there was a possibility of so there's like some kind of you can get on and just like YouTube it, how to put a fly rod together so it doesn't come apart. And there's like literally one person who gets on there and like shows you how to twist it, so it's like almost impossible to pull off unless you really twist it.
That's awesome.
I'm not saying that it couldn't wrap up and rip off.
I mean, I just pop them together so that.
Yeah, there's like some kind of way you can like. It's almost like a full twist or something to get those working.
Sweet.
Once again, something I never do. In the mountains of Tennessee, don't really have to worry about that. Dude, so let's talk about. There was a question I had for you. So let's talk about reeling these fish in, because it's a little bit different. Once again, I come from a whole different perspective, but is there a difference in the way you reel these fish in compared to a redfish, compared to other types of fish? Because I know I was kind of keeping it low and steady and just pressure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they pop off. Even with a treble hook, it seemed like.
Yeah, a lot of these fish will make a run at some point straight at the boat, and so keeping that rod low and water and line in the water, if he all of a sudden creates this slack, or comes at you and you can't keep up, there's still going to be some sort of drag from that line that's in the water to keep pressure on the hook in their mouth. The other big thing too is I tell people, don't ever set the hook on them. And somebody's probably going to say that's stupid. Even on this live feed, they might say that's stupid. You need to set the hook. But my opinion is they miss it a lot, and they're eating it and turning and running so hard. The hook's going to be set. You're reeling as fast as you can almost. And so that hook's going to stick them. And as soon as they're going to at least feel the pressure and turn and bury the hook themselves. But if you swing on them every time they bite and he misses it, but all of a sudden you rip it 5 feet away, that fish isn't going to try to eat it again if he misses it. So don't set the hook. Keep your rod tip low. Keep reeling. Keep that rod tip pretty pointed directly at that fish. And that, I'm not even answering your question. But
no, you did. That was my question. Like, what's the best way to reel them in? So
yeah. And then, just keeping that rod bent and keeping good pressure. You always want that rod bent. If they start coming at you, keep that rod tip low so there's some drag.
They'll take a run at you, and you're like, oh, God, I got to get this thing in.
Definitely.
And really, sometimes you think, like, oh, I lost a fish, but he's still on there. He's just coming to the boat.
Right.
So you're just reeling super
That's
fast.
another time where you'll see people break rods because, they've got all this slack, and all of a sudden the fish jets under the boat, and then whack, it hits it right on the gunnel.
Oh, gosh, man. So, it's not cheap being
don't
a guy.
Don't bring your most expensive rods out there to albacore fish. And I guess that can bring us into the whole rod talk.
Yeah, let's do. Let's talk about really quick. Dave Fladd's on the show watching. Appreciate you watching, Dave. He said that he hooked up on his first falsie this summer.
Nice.
He thought it was a Spanish and spooled his 1,000 reel.
Oh
in
man,
seconds.
That's awesome. Yeah, a big Spanish. If it was a Spanish, I'm guessing it was a citation. But that's cool. Yeah, that like I was saying, that here you can bump into some albacore all summer off the beach.
Yeah, that's great. And they get up. They get pretty big, like as far as pounds.
Yeah, there's 20-pound albacore. We don't see many
crazy.
here in the lower North Carolina area, but you get up to Cape Lookout in the Outer Banks.
Yeah.
Later in the season, you catch some of those really big fish.
Wow.
The biggest one I've caught was around 15 pounds, but I could not imagine a 20-pound.
Dude, 15
albacore.
pounds was. How big was the ones we were catching?
3 to 5 pounds.
But yeah, dude, they were wearing us out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, a 15-pound. That thing beat the crap out of you, didn't it?
They're strong, man. They're strong.
15 pounds, man. That is crazy. Well, dude, talking about reels, what kind of reel setup do you recommend?
You don't need to go too big, honestly. And 1,000, you could beat a fish on 1,000. It's just a matter of line capacity because they are going to take quite a bit of line out. Just a decent drag. You want a smooth drag. They run really fast. You don't want anything jumping. But yeah, we were using 3,000s and 4,000 Daiwa BGs. And I know we always talk. I got a burp building up in here from that smoothie. I'm sitting here like, ugh.
Oh, dude, where is your smoothie? Is it gone?
It's gone, man.
Yeah, mine's gone too. Mine's gone too.
But yeah, 3,000, 4,000 class reels is all you need. I like 15-pound braid. It's the same reels I'm using on my redfish rods. I'm just swapping them over to some older rods on an albacore fishing, just because like we said, I'm used to breaking a few each season, so I'm trying not to break my nicer rods. 15-pound braid, and I like 15 to 25-pound leader fluorocarbon based upon the spookiness of the fish.
Oh, gotcha.
And if I'm fly fishing, sometimes I try to go as light as I can. If there's Spanish and bluefish around, I'll go with that 25. But those fish can see well. Tuna are known for being able to see well and see line really well in the water. So
we're using what on the fly? 20, I think, right?
We were using 20-pound, yeah.
And I was fishing. I don't know what you're fishing with, but I was fishing with an 8-weight.
Yeah, you're fishing 8-weight. And that's my typical is an 8-weight or 9-weight rod.
Yeah. So and those are pretty sturdy, man. I saw you reel 2 in on yours is 8-weight too.
That was an 8-weight.
Yeah. So it handled it, no big deal.
It was the Scott S4S 8-weight.
The Scott. I can't even remember what mine is. That's terrible, isn't it?
Is it a Larry Cray?
It's a Larry Cray. Who said that?
Jordan was calling Lefty Cray Larry Cray. That was
Larry
fun.
Cray. Yeah. Yeah, Jordan, Larry Cray. That's funny, dude. I forgot about that. So I have a Lefty Cray edition. What is that?
TFO.
TFO, yeah.
Temple Fork Outfitters.
Dude, it was pretty solid, man.
Awesome rod. Super good rod.
Got a little Reddington reel in there. Nothing too expensive. So if you guys want to get into fly fishing, totally check it out, man. You can get into it. I feel like cheaper these days.
Yeah, definitely cheaper these days. There's some more. The companies making it easier to get a nice setup for not $1,000. So
yeah, but the $1,000 setup. That'll put you on that'll catch you more. No,
it catches you more fish, hands down, all day long.
Dude. So as far as what were we talking about?
We were talking about leader. We were talking about leader.
Yeah,
so
as far as leader
15 to 25 pound, 2 feet of it, I think is fine. You don't need a ton of it. When they're going really good, you could probably fish straight braid, but 2 feet of fluoro and then, like I was saying, the epoxy jig is my favorite bait to throw for those fish. The thing about the epoxy jig is it looks incredible in the water, but it's a little bit lighter than some of the other jigs you might be fishing. But the fish definitely eat it better. 100%. The Hoagie epoxy jig, and I'm not sponsored by Hoagie. They're not a sponsor of our show.
Not yet.
Call us. Yeah, but you look on any of the rods that I'm throwing for albacore, and it's got a Hoagie epoxy jig on there, and that's just because
those things wore it out, man.
They wear it out. They look so much like a glassy minnow, and there's a lot of translucentness to that bait, so that I think when it needs to be a big bait, it can be, but then also it can kind of look like a small bait because there's some clear aspects, if that makes sense.
And how did you tie them on? I didn't even see how you tied them on.
I just tie a straight uni. I probably should. I mean, honestly, the right way to do it would be a loop knot, so you get that, it'll ride a little bit better. But the knot's not hugely important because you're moving it so fast. They can see well, but I don't think they can necessarily pick up on the knot unless you were in 30 or 40 pounds.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly. And action's not it's not like those jigs have great action. They look really nothing quite like they don't swim like a fish or anything.
Dude, you're just pulling so fast and everything's so sporadic. It's I think you're right. Because I mean, I don't feel like that would have made a big difference.
Yeah,
with dart trip.
It doesn't. And but yeah, I would say some type of small loop knot off the front is important. Usually it's just I'm trying to tie one on real quickly and I end up just tying a uni knot. But a perfection loop or a surgeon's loop or a Duncan loop, any of that stuff will work fine.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, dude. They're so much fun. I can't even tell you. I could talk about these fish for days. They're so much fun.
For sure.
So, and then what size rod are you using?
Oh, I like a medium action rod, maybe even a medium light. So I like a soft tip because, like we were saying, these jigs, sometimes you got to throw really little ones, and so I want something that I can still get a lot of distance with a small jig on. So if I'm going fishing by myself, I've got some G Loomis E6Xs that I've been throwing with a really soft tip. Same thing I'm throwing for redfish and trout, but the Daiwa BG combos, which I got from Intercoastal Angler here in town.
Good.
The rod's a little heavier than I like, but it gets it done, and it's not very expensive. But a light tip rod with some good butt section to it. Different makes or different rod makes, like let's say Shimano or G Loomis. They're all slightly different, but something with a light tip and a good butt section. You want to be able to throw it far, but be able to fight a fish. And so the first part of that fight of an albacore is going to be out on the surface when they take off, but then you got to pull up on them hard when they go down. They'll dive down like a tuna at the end, and you got to lift up on them. So having a butt section and not just tip is important.
Yeah, dude, just a unique fight. I would say out of all the fish that I fought, it's just a very unique fight.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty
for
unique.
Sure.
So cool, man. Well, I think, is there anything we haven't covered?
I don't think so.
I think we got to all the questions. If you have any last minute questions, you can go ahead and put those in the chat. And I think our chat's a little delayed from our feed. So
I'm looking over it right now.
We'll kind of hang out here for a minute just in case as well. And then also, if you haven't said hello in the chat, we're going to be giving away this AFCO shirt here. Let me pull it up again in just a couple minutes as we bring the broadcast to an end, but be sure to check that out. We're going to be giving this away. So just say hello or whatever in the comment section. And really appreciate you guys joining us, man. I think we covered everything that we were going to, that we wanted to cover. So if there's any last minute questions, once again, we can go over that. But, dude, go fish for false albacore.
And just get out there and look for them. There's a lot of fish around in the fall, and it's such a fun thing to do. It's great to take a lot of people out, or your buddies out, to do that don't fish much, because there's a lot of opportunity there.
And
it's not the hardest thing to do.
Even if you're fishing off a pier. I was fishing off a pier one time. We saw some blow up. Of course, there's surfers all around, so we didn't try to lay into them. But I was like, dang it, man! If you guys weren't over there, that would have been fun. So,
and I think me and Billy were talking, or maybe it wasn't with Billy, but you can catch them off the beach, and that's one of my goals. I would love to catch an albacore with my feet in the sand. Yeah, there's places that happens. I just think it'd be cool. It'd be really cool.
Like here in North Carolina?
Yeah, guys catch them in North Carolina off the beach. I've seen them before where if I had been standing on the beach, I could have caught them. So
yeah, that's crazy.
They can be anywhere from 10 feet old. You'll see videos of them down in Florida blowing up on sandbar edges in like 8 inches of water on their sides, eating glassy minnows.
Dude, we got somebody from Houston watching. I imagine that's Houston, Texas. I looked on our podcast. It tells us how many states people watch from. So I think we're like 14 states away from every state represented on the podcast.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, which it was kind of interesting. Louisiana was not on there. I expected that to be on there.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm going to have to get on a couple of my buddies that live down there. So you guys go share with somebody that you know from a random state that you think might not be watching our podcast and our show, and let's see if we can get every state every state on here.
Montana's one of them. I wish I had the
Montana's not the places where I have good amounts of friends.
Yeah, no, what's up, man? They're not
dropping
supporting
the ball.
All these freshwater fishing. Well, I guess Louisiana is a saltwater state.
They a big bass fishing state too, though.
Oh, so, is it? Yeah. We need to do a bass episode.
I think it'd be fun to do a bass episode.
North Carolina. Hey, did I tell you who we could bring on for that?
Who's that?
I got so excited and then I slipped his name. Scott Blevins.
Scott
Blevins. He and I were chatting it up at the Sportsman's Warehouse the other day about bass fishing. So
awesome.
He put me on a couple ponds. I'm gonna go check out with the fly rods.
Pond hopping.
All right, awesome, guys. Let's see. What's a good distance to keep from the beach searching for the bullets?
Searching for the bullets. I would just say each day can be different, but I would say usually a mile. Start in looking around in that mile and then slide off a little further if you need to.
Yeah, and I guess water temperature up closer to the beach or further out.
Oh, good temp. Gotcha.
Oh, no. He said distance. And
distance.
Then I asked about temperature.
Temperature. It's usually like the upper 70s, low 80s is when you really start to see them well. Once they're here, it doesn't matter too much. They'll be here until it drops off into like the mid 60s.
Oh, gotcha.
But temperature is not. I mean, it is very important. But once they're here, they're not super temperature driven to leave until the bait leaves. So.
Oh, gotcha. So will they be here typically until like November?
Yeah, typically till maybe mid to late November you can catch them.
Gotcha. And then so this is for false albacore. So then the Atlantic bonito, when do those guys come in?
For me, that's always been more of a springtime thing. Okay, so April, gotcha. May, even maybe the March. Yeah, sometimes I got to say the months in my head.
January, February,
March. Yeah, so late March sometimes too. You can get on those bonito.
Yeah,
and you can catch them the same way, looking for them busting. But more times than not, those are more structure oriented, which the albacore are not very structure oriented, and so you can just kind of go throw diamond jigs over a wreck and probably catch those fish even if they're not busting the bonita, as to where the albacore really could care less about structure. So that's another important thing that I forgot to share earlier, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Now, do you somebody on here asked a while ago, I meant to ask, I totally forgot, but I just remembered, do you do any trolling for false albacore?
You could definitely catch them trolling, but I've never done it.
Oh, gotcha.
But it'd be the same thing as Spanish fishing. But I would say forget the planers and just run little light weights and keep them up near the surface.
Okay. Yeah, that was from Ben Boger here. It says, any trolling rigs that you know of that resemble glass minnows? Have you seen any?
Yeah, I'd say the Clark spoon. A little small Clark spoon would crush it.
Do it.
So.
Cool. Well, man, I think that's it, dude. We ripped through an hour, like no problem. Just talking about that. So if you guys want a good time on the water, make sure you call Judd here. I don't know if his phone.
Text me right now. Hit me up on Instagram. Shoot me a Facebook message.
Yeah, so you can see it there at Judd Brock Fishing right below him. And go get on the water with him, man. It's super fun. And one thing I always say about booking a guide or whatever is just get on the phone with them, and if it's a good time on the phone for 5 or 10 minutes, then you can probably bet they're going to be pretty cool for 6 hours. And so I can say from experience that Judd is fun to be on the water with for 6 hours and always keeping it lively.
Thanks, man.
And just hustles out there, man. I always tell people, like, they're like, how was your trip with Judd? I'm like, no matter if we caught fish every time I think we've been. So anytime if we go, and it's always a good time, even if you're slaying them or if you're looking for them or whatever, it's a good time. So make sure you guys give him a shout and do that. So anyway, that's it, man. That's episode 14.
Episode 14 in the
false
books.
Albacore.
Whew.
Now we're going to go catch one on the fly.
We're going to catch one on the fly.
And if you want to go with Judd and catch one on the fly, make sure you bring your own fly rod.
No, I have fly rods.
Make sure you practice that double strip and that double haul. Everything's double here on the coast.
Laying it out quick, moving it quick.
Well, dude, appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we need to do our giveaway.
Oh, my goodness. Here we go.
Our giveaway. You ready?
Are you going to do it?
I'll do it. I'll scroll. And
this shirt right here.
Griffin's whack.
Griffin, what's up, brother?
It's all yours, man.
Hope you can fit into a large. If not, hopefully, I've never seen you before, but if you're like a 4X trying to fit into a large, that would be even more funny.
I think a large might probably be a size.
No, he's going to be good with
I've only seen him from the water.
I've never seen a fat fisherman.
So, Griffin, hit me up, and we can meet up sometime this week, and I will get you that shirt.
Awesome, man. Well, you guys have a great one. Once again, this is Billy Thorpe. That's Judd Brock.
Judd Brock right
This is
here.
Eastern Current. We'll be back next week, and we'll announce the topic. We're trying to stay fresh with whatever's happening, whatever's hot. But we do have a trout series planned, so we're got that in the books. Don't know when we'll get to it, but
we're waiting. I guess we're waiting for it to kind of fire off a little bit more. You know, be a little more hot and heavy into the trout fishing. So it's definitely good right now, but we can give it a little bit more time before we jump into it. We got some really killer guys that are going to come on and talk to you all about trout fishing. There's going to be a lot to learn. Yeah, so we're keeping it under wraps. Though.
Yeah, don't tell them. Got a guy that's it's going to be good. It's going to be really good.
Yeah.
But anyways, in the meantime, if there's something you want to learn about, something we haven't covered, go over to Instagram, hit us up on there, message us, email us, get our wherever, find us online, Facebook, message, all that kind of stuff.
And right now, it takes 1 minute. Just go to iTunes real quick and rate our podcast. Right when we wrap this episode up.
That's it, man. We're wrapped up.
We're wrapped up.
Here. See you guys
Later.